If you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or follow us on any of our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Live on Four Legs Podcast and on Twitter at Live on Four Legs Pod.
You know, the last time we were here, it was really cold out. And now it's as hot as the devil's asshole. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody, now welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. Whether you're listening in for the first time or 79th time, that's right, we've been counting. There's 79 episodes now, not including a bunch of extra stuff that we've done, but you know, that's neither here nor there. We are back and we thank you for listening in again. And for those of you who are listening in for the first time, we are a Pearl Jam podcast that focuses primarily on their live act. We take the moments that have been enshrined throughout their history that, you know, everybody goes to the live shows and they think of, hey, you know, I'm having a moment here. This song made me feel something special. We try to bring that back. We try to bring the memories back to you within this show because you can't go back and have those moments again through a live show, especially 20 years into the past. You can't go back and actually get all of those feelings again. So if we bring back some of those warm, fuzzy feelings for you, then we have achieved at least some of our goals. So Randy Sobel here, John Farrar over there. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's going and listening to all these shows every week. It's like, it's interesting to see, like, some of them just jump off the speaker, you know, and they hit you in a certain way. And even though, you know, we've been doing these around the world shows where we've gone, we started in Australia and New Zealand, and we've gone through Asia, and now we've gone through Europe. Like, I wasn't at any of these shows, but a lot of times, like, if you put yourself in that headspace, you can hear and kind of feel like what it would have been like at the show. So I feel like one of the big things we do is, capture those moments and preserve those memories for the people that were there. And even if you weren't there, you can still hear it. Like, we play clips, obviously. With some shows we do more, some shows we do less, but we try to, hopefully you guys can hear that in the songs, like how special these moments are, because they're special moments at every Pearl Jam show, you know. They're really good at creating that magic on stage.
And I think that everybody listening in, you know, especially for the Around the World series, which is really why we wanted to do this whole year-long series in the first place, was to dig into shows that not everybody has listened to before. You know, a lot of these that we've covered, like Oslo 2014, I had never listened to that show before doing this podcast. Yeah. And this Prague 2000, I had never listened to this before either, but there's always something special in each show, and that's sort of one of the main goals of ours is to go and dig in and find that and bring it to life, because there is somebody out there. Yeah, sure, we don't have a lot of fans that are in Prague, but there is somebody out there that either owns this bootleg, loves this bootleg, or was at this show and it means something to them, and we're just trying to do our best to bring it back.
We're going to cross the ocean and get back to Canada and Mexico and South America.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot of those, we still got a long way to go, but we'll still be sprinkling some of the American shows in. So don't worry, if you've been, we got some big shows coming up. I don't know if we want to talk about that right now, but
we can save it for the end.
We got some big shows coming up this summer that we're going to cover, so everyone will get a chance to kind of relive those a little closer to home.
Tune into the end of the episode, and we will reveal what we're doing. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. We have something to look forward to. We have lots of things to look forward to. Prague 2000, we ended last week's episode by saying that we were going to cover Austria 1992, and that wasn't a lie. We're still going to do it, but we're going to do that for Patreon. It was a really short show. It was like an 80-minute show, so there wasn't a whole lot to go on here and really talk about and have major conversations about. There was enough for an episode, of course, but I think that really what we needed to do was we needed to go back 20 years into the past and look at the 2000 year, because we haven't done that 2000 European tour. There are really two tours out of all of the Around the World series that we've done so far. I think 2000 and 2006 are the ones that we really haven't touched upon just yet, and this was a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and any chance we can get to cross off another one on the big board, I'm all for it.
Of course, absolutely. And we, just so happens that we get to do two this week, so lucky us. But let's direct you over to Patreon, because we are releasing the Vienna 1992 episode this week, and it is going to be a Patreon exclusive episode. And obviously, for anybody that listens in, about Patreon, and that basically every week we have something new that's exclusively on there for the patrons that, donate, are nice enough to donate to us. But we are looking to take it a little bit of a step further. So, John, why don't you tell everybody the next phase of Patreon and what we plan to do for people?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a show of the month. So every month we're going to pick an episode coming up that month, and we're going to give all of our patrons a chance to listen to the bootleg. We're going to send it to you via email and MP3. So you'll have a week or two at least to go through that, check it out. Anything stands out to you, anything you want us to talk about, you can let us know on Patreon or send us an email, liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. And it'll give us a chance to be a little more interactive on the show and get a little more feedback from our patrons. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to get people, like you said, more interactive and talking about it. And also something we just didn't realize that, not everybody has listened to these shows before. So it might be good for people to have it in their hands, listen to it, and then we all have that discussion and get it in for the show, basically.
Yeah, and it's just another benefit too. Like, if you've been thinking about joining the Patreon, and it's $1 a month, you get access to everything. For $5 a month, you become a gigaleg. You get priority access on shows that you want to cover. But now, in addition to everything else, you're getting the extra episodes and things like that. You're going to be getting an MP3 bootleg via email every month.
I think it's a really good deal for anybody that does like collecting the bootlegs and doesn't necessarily have the means to get them. It's something that we feel like we can help you out with, because we have them all, and we've done trivia contests where we've given them out.
Oh yeah, I've got 900 and something on my hard drive, so we're going to be doing this for a while.
That would be very stubborn of you to keep them all to yourself. Thankfully, we're all nice enough to share them with everybody, and that's what the community is all about, just sharing as much as we can together with everyone. So patreon.com/liveonfourlegs. You can use the app of Patreon, or you can go to the website on that link that I just mentioned and just sign up, either the $1 bonus leg or the $5 giga leg. You get all the access to the exclusive episodes. You get to choose an episode for us to cover on the air at some point in time, and you get the bootleg of the month. So there's a lot of things going on over there.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Glenn Bobby, who let us know his episode he wants to cover. He's going to pick an Atlanta show, so we're going to get to that later this year. I'm very excited.
Well, of course you're going to give a shout out to the Atlanta show.
We've done 17 Hartford shows. It's only fair.
We have done 2. That's it. And I only really want to do at least 3 more. So
at least 3 more. Okay.
Yeah, at least. I think there are only 3 more. So Hartford shows are good. Don't be sucking on the Hartford shows. And we're doing 2 Atlanta shows this year.
Yeah. Well, that's
so you're getting yours.
Overdue.
Man, we did overdue. We did the most famous Atlanta show that there is.
Absolutely.
Long time ago, but anyway.
Unfortunately, we don't. They played Atlanta in 91 and 92, but bootlegs do not exist, so we don't know.
Ooh, that would be cool. That would be a cool little extra treat if anybody's in Atlanta.
If you're holding on to that cassette tape, share it.
All right, why don't we dig into this binaural era show? We haven't done a binaural era show in a very long time, so this is kind of not new territory, but it's territory that we're hopping back into, I suppose. Maybe you haven't covered a 2000 show yet.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So the one thing that I'm thinking to myself, No Code and binaural are similar in their eras, but they're also a little bit different. When binaural hit, it felt like there was no hype over the album at all. Almost the same way as No Code, where people were either in or they were out. And binaural was very much an era where a lot of those people that just kind of grew out of the 90s sound and grew out of Pearl Jam and wanted to move on to other stuff that was going on in the 90s, they were out by binaural. There wasn't a lot of people sticking around.
Yeah, it got almost no radio play, no videos. Like they had done the Evolution video, and that made a minor impact. But yeah, like they had retreated into kind of becoming that, like, oh, they're still around, that kind of band.
Right. And every band that puts together this kind of legacy needs that one weird album that the casual fan is just like, well, I haven't listened to that, or I've never really liked that album. And I think for the most hardcore Pearl Jam fans, they do enjoy binaural. And for me, at least, I like binaural, but I like the songs off binaural more than the album, if that makes sense.
And it's weird too. It's got like, it's all space, and like there's that nebula, picture of the nebula on the front. It's not like a very commercial friendly,
right? It doesn't
packaging
grab
behind
at
it, which they've never done, which is fine. That's what they want to do. But yeah, it's a difficult record. Like it's not a Yield, it's not a Versus or even a Backspacer where it's very easy to listen to. Like Binaural and Riot Act are difficult records to get through, man. They're not for everyone.
No, that's for sure. And I even think, now that we're 20 years from that show and that tour and the album being released, not a lot of those songs have really stuck around to be, primary songs that are in the set every time. Every other album has one. No Code has Lucan and Hail Hail and Present Tense, and Yield has Evolution, Wishlist, Given a Fly. Riot Act,
Low Light,
Riot Act has I Am Mine and Save You. Avocado has a couple, Life Wasted and the Reprise.
Come Back has stuck around a little bit. Inside Job has stuck around.
Sure, but to say that there's one song off of binaural that's been above the rest is really tough to put that into a category. I don't think that there is really one that sticks out to me as like, okay, you'll get this 4 or 5 times a tour.
The highest, there's only a couple that have been played more than 100 times. I think we did a trivia question on this once. I think it's like maybe Nothing As It Seems. I'm just going off the top of my head. Someone can look it up and correct me, but I think only Nothing As It Seems and maybe Insignificance have been played more than 100 times.
Yeah, Grievance probably too. Grievance is probably just over that mark, but you know, this was a big tour. The Binaural tour was a huge tour. They toured the whole U.S. basically within 2 months, and most of Europe within, May and June. So there were a lot of dates out of the 2000 tour. So you take that year away and you look at the rest, maybe from the Riot Act era on, and that's where I would talk about how many songs have been played from the album, because there you don't have a song that's maybe over 50 times.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what it is like as we go through the show, and like I love the way they play these songs live. I wish they would play them more. But yeah, if you go to a show now, if you get more than one binaural song, you consider yourself lucky.
It's really lucky, yeah. I've looked at my stats before, and I've only seen 5 individual binaural songs. That's it.
I've only seen 5 performances.
I mean, that's extraordinarily low. I've seen two of the songs that I've seen more than once. Grievance, which I don't know how that's even possible. From 2010, they've only played it 6 or 7 times. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I've seen Grievance 3 times, which is kind of nuts. But then nothing as it seems I've seen twice too. And then once for Breakerful, once for Insignificance, and once for Sleight of Hand. And the rest of them...
I think I have 2 Light Years, 2 Nothing As It Seems, and a Rival.
Wow.
I'm thinking that maybe is all I have.
I mean, and look at that. Just between 2 people, you have 2 songs that I don't have, Yeah. So it's a completely different animal, completely different beast. I think for most of the other albums, I have at least heard half of the album, and in most of these cases for these albums, I'm missing 1, maybe 2 songs. So that's sort of how binaural has ended up, and one of the things that really kind of spoke out to me with the set and kind of pops out at first is that even a month after the album comes out, there are only 5 binaural songs that are played on the show. That's a really low total, and that's not something they were necessarily doing a lot. I went back and I looked at most of the shows, and it's around 7 or 8. So that's if it's that much average, then that's a pretty decent amount for a new album. But 5 seems really low, and but in the same aspect, you get a lot of variety from all of the albums in this.
Yeah, there's a couple of cool no code ones, a couple of cool yield ones. So yeah, they mix it up a little bit. And I think too that's they had played Prague before, I think in 96, I know for sure, right? He goes around the arena. I think they saw what kind of place this was. And you can watch the video of this show on YouTube. It's really good. And all you see is just a sea of people.
It's 96.
96. So they had been to Prague before, not too far before this show. So I think they knew that they were going to get a good show. And he mentions, too, that this might be the best show of the tour so far. So you can tell the crowd's really into it. Everyone's singing along. They knew that maybe they should be a little... when Ed makes a set list, he gets a feel for the place and the city. And, he knows... I think for this one, he realized they needed to be a little more crowd friendly and play a little more of the more popular older stuff.
Yeah, that could be it. And again, going back to just sort of the album's appeal to people, and maybe that they're thinking, how much has this record been playing on the radio in Prague? How much has this sold here? Are people from the last show, were they into the binaural songs as much as we wanted them to be? And I think the show before this, I believe, was Pink Pop 2000. So there were quite a few new songs there on that show. So, big crowd, maybe didn't give them the reaction that they would have hoped. So maybe they kind of died down on it a little bit and kind of slowed it down.
By this time, they're learning which songs get a reaction and which ones don't.
Sure.
And we even get a debut at this show, which
we do.
is really cool.
We do. So, all right, let's kick it off. And of course, if we're in the binaural era, pretty much every show is going to be an Of the Girl opener, which is fantastic. And you are kicking it off with Mike absolutely on fire, and it never stops. You know, in NBA Jam, where you dunk a couple times and you're heating up, and right. Then you're just, the ball is on fire, and every time you touch the ball, your whole body goes on fire.
And
Mike,
you can't miss.
Yeah, you can't. Right. This was Mike on the show.
This is definitely a Mike show. There's so many opportunities for him in this to just show off and do his thing. It's a little bit, the set list is a little weird. When you get into the middle and the end of the first set, we'll talk about that. But yeah, almost every chance he gets, he's going off.
Yeah, it's basically tailor-made for him. And, different stuff that they're doing in the binaural era too. I don't know if you listened in to the In My Tree episode that we did on the song evolution, but we talked about some of the sound effects that they were doing during versions of In My Tree. A lot of that stuff is implemented in some of these songs, whether it's a new song, whether it's an old song. He's doing a lot of it there. So really in the first one, in Of the Girl, it's just his platform to just kind of go crazy, and a lot of what we're going to play tonight is Mike is just taking in what Mike did, because Mike really made the night very special.
Absolutely. And only the 7th Of the Girl. I mean, I know we're early in the tour, but still that's some of them had been played a lot more than that, so this was still early on in the history of it. But yeah, he just takes the song over. It's great. So
you get Of the Girl. Grievance is the second song, and there right off the bat, you have two binaural. And Grievance, it's not the definitive number 2 song, and it's kind of, I don't know. I know that they've done it a lot in the 3 or 4 spot, which I think I take a little bit better, but I don't know how I feel about it as the second song. I don't think it really.
Well, you got to think too. Early on in the tour, they're still feeling these songs out.
Sure, of
course. We talked about that show in Berlin where they did Sometimes late in the set. You can't, these songs haven't migrated to their final resting places yet. They're not where they would end up. They're still feeling it out, and he's still playing around with what sounds good where. But I thought this Grievance was fantastic. Ed shredding his vocals at the beginning. There's some really good Cameron stuff at the end. I thought it was a fantastic version of Grievance, one of the highlights for me.
Well, a lot of what Mike was doing in Grievance is what I was just saying before, a lot of that spacey kind of, basically they sound like lasers essentially coming from his guitar.
I pledge my grievance to the flag. 'Cause you don't give blood and take it back again.
Again, chances to play around here. Mike is taking every opportunity to make something of it and make it special.
Yeah, and it's a song too that it immediately gets the crowd going. After Of the Girl, which is a little more relaxed, yeah, Grievance immediately gets everybody jumping up and down and throwing their hands in the air.
And the rest of the beginning of this set kind of bounces up and down a little bit. You get a corduroy, and a very good corduroy that bounces into a Given a Fly that has that slow burn build that we talk about, where it starts off kind of mild and then goes up as the song progresses. But then you get Animal, which necessarily wouldn't be after Given a Fly, and then Red Mosquito, which is kind of in its own little spot where it usually is the 6-7 hole kind of deal. So it's not what they would do on a regular basis. I think the Given a Fly in the number 4 spot kind of throws it off just a little bit, and not in a bad way at all. It's just,
I think it's only a 2-year-old song at this point.
Right. They're still figuring stuff out with that too, but it's, I think when you look at it and you look at, Corduroy being that opener, Animal being that opener, you see Given a Fly, and it kind of takes the balance a little bit, and it kind of cuts through it.
Corduroy's great. I love it when he, before it starts, he just hits that chord and lets it ring. That's the first note of Corduroy, to let everybody know. It kind of gives a tease,
sure,
here it is. I love when he does that. And again, McCready's great on Corduroy. Animal, I thought, was a standout. Mike's playing a flying V. Jeff is doing that attack pose where he spreads his legs and gets way down. And then you got Mike running over to Stone's side, and they jam a little bit. I thought Animal was a highlight of the early set.
Yeah, Mike was using the flying V in a couple songs on this one, I noticed, which is not very typical nowadays. And Ed belting that last Animal. I'd rather be with an
And Animal's an overlooked one. If we were to ask everybody, hey, send us your top 5 or top 10 live songs, I doubt very many of them would have Animal on there.
Yeah, it's good glue.
When it's good, it's really good.
Yeah, it's good glue for a set, and you kind of don't think about it because it's in every 3 shows or so, and it fills that, that void of that early set trying to get people going, and
he's usually really emotive with it. He does the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
right.
Ed gets really into it with the crowd, and he's really moving around and doing things. Gets into it. So I think it's a highlight live. I think it deserves to be talked about more as a live song, but it always gets overlooked. Even me, if you had asked me before we started the show, what are your top 10 live songs, top 20 live songs, I probably would have forgotten about Animal, but it absolutely deserves a spot.
I think, again, that sometimes it's probably due to placement because it gets it's in that first couple so often that you don't really get a chance to have a spotlight anywhere else. If it was in an encore, if it was in late set.
Give it a chance to be an opener. Give it a chance to be in a late encore.
I fully agree with that.
Let it end a first set.
Absolutely.
This is a great song.
Yeah, sometimes they rest on their laurels a little bit, and it takes a couple of songs that should be more powerful live and
If I win the all-in challenge and get to help Ed make the set list, I will push for Animal to get a more prominent spot. I promise.
Let's see if it makes your set. You're gonna have a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah. If you guys didn't see, they're doing Pearl Jam's doing the all-in challenge, where if you donate money, then you can get a chance to win a great prize. We shared it, I think, a couple weeks ago when it came out. But yeah, you get a chance to see sound check and help make the set list and be on stage. Bring out a guitar. They'll sing Happy Birthday to you. They went all out on this thing.
It's basically everything that you could want. Yeah, yeah. Really, and a lot of sports franchises are doing this. A lot of actors are doing this. So it's it's a pretty big deal. So if that's something, if you've always wanted to go on stage and have Ed sing Happy Birthday to you and get a cake smushed in your face, then do what you can to give back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too because we'll obviously know who the winner is because we'll when the tour comes around we'll know who they bring out on stage. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
No matter what happens, I want the winner to come on an episode and talk to us. I think
definitely,
that's going to
definitely.
be an experience that needs to be documented, I suppose.
Red Mosquito, Mike again, like this opening set, he's every song we could talk about how great it is with him.
He's waiting. He's always waiting.
You got that Cameron fill during the solo section on Red Mosquito too. That just feels like it comes out of nowhere. I love that little part.
Yeah, he was feeling a little more comfortable. Like this was his second big tour that he'd done with them, so he was throwing in a little more of his touches on things, and yeah, it's really nice. He was really starting to make an imprint on the sound.
So here, Ed takes a little break after 6 songs and, asks the crowd how they are and talks about how cold it was in that 96 show that they played, but tonight is hot as the devil's asshole. So proceeds to tell a story about
You think
how...
that's a tie-in with Red Mosquito, a little bit of the devil, and
It's, possibly. Yeah.
maybe that was a reason that got thrown in there.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard him use that specific quote before, "Devil's asshole." So potentially it has something to do with Red Mosquito. But yeah, he proceeds to tell a story here about how the equipment truck got stuck at the border during the last show, so the equipment didn't get to the show until 7, and everybody was waiting out in the cold. And he said he watched some film on it, and it looked like people were all miserable, so he thanks everybody for sticking with it and calls everybody tough. If they can get through that, they can get through this. So, again, we've dealt with a lot of shows that had very hot atmospheres. I know we talked about the Copenhagen one where everybody was sweating through, and Ed... changing his shirt a couple of times. I think in this show, Mike loses his shirt. So, those are difficult things to do when you're on stage and you have to basically run through the gauntlet of songs and, man the temperature as well.
Yeah, I mean, we always, you don't even think about it unless they bring it up, but it's a big part of these shows.
Absolutely. And big part of how they perform too and how they react to it. So we get here, middle of the set, Pilot, only the 9th ever performance of this song. And, we talk about the Yield song sometimes and how they didn't really get their due during the Yield era, basically maybe because Cameron had a lot more to learn and you wanted him to get comfortable with songs like Corduroy and Last Exit and those kind of songs. But Pilot kind of got left in the dust, and it's a song that really, even nowadays, maybe you get it once a year, once every 2 years kind of deal.
Right.
Talk of circles, punching out, drawing in, circles down, falling up south, mocking ground. Talking out of turn, drawing circles down. Like Pilot, I have a dog. Like Pilot, I have a dog.
How do you feel about the song in general? I always feel like this is maybe one of the more underrated tracks in the Pearl Jam discography.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Jeff song, and his songs are always weird and great. And I love the background vocals, which they do in this one, thankfully. I think it just makes the song. And, it's got a weird bridge, and, I think it definitely deserves to be played more. It was a nice surprise here.
Yeah, I feel like whenever it does get played, I always equate it to it's kind of the golf clap song where people politely respect it, but they're not gonna get up in a frenzy about it. They're not gonna have their arms in the air, but they will, sing along and kind of bob their head. But it's
not like a fast. It doesn't fit in that fast set with the save yous and the mind your manners and brain of jays and things like that. But it's not like a soaring thing. Like it doesn't fit in with your unthought knowns and lightning bolts and even flows and those things that kind of make up the middle of the set. So yeah, a lot of times it'll be like, oh, we're gonna play a weird one, and they have a bunch of those and they have to rotate them through. So it never really found a home in the set.
And this one bounces around too. You have a very soft verse and then a chorus that kind of gets a little faster and picks up the pace a little bit. So it doesn't, and maybe that's why it just doesn't connect with the fans as much, is that it's a very different song in that aspect. But again, Jeff writes.
That's exactly what you're going to say. That's Jeff to a T.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think a lot of, in this show too, it's almost very workmanlike. Like that there's not a lot of extended versions or improv stuff, but it's all very solid. It's almost like a lot of very similar to the album versions, and like pilot included. Like there's not a lot of straying from the album versions on this. But I mean, it's great. But this is not a show you're going to go to if you're looking for like a lot of stage banter or a lot of extra stuff or improvs or tags or anything like that. It's just not here.
No, but it's a very solid performance. The band was tight all night. And if you like different set lists and things popping up where they don't necessarily pop up, which we're going to talk about right now, Alive is in the number 8 spot. So, at this time, obviously Alive is getting the axe from the set list a little bit after this because of everything that went on with Roskilde. So, but I think that there was a time before this where they were starting to wane off of it a little bit, and they were right. They were trying to use it in different spots like this, and it just feels, even performing it 8 songs in, it feels like they're rising to that moment to make a big moment in this show. They're not playing it like an 8th song. They're playing it like the same way that they would play it if it was 25th.
Yeah, I almost expected Yellow Ledbetter after, and then we're done. Like,
right, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, what I think they were trying to do, because you get Even Flow late, like Even Flow is the penultimate song in the main set. I almost think they were trying to switch those to see if it would work.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, can we, are these, I think they were just testing it. Like, are these interchangeable? Is this something we can do? Like, put Alive in the middle, like, because Even Flow kind of becomes like the give Ed's voice a break song. Let McCready have a moment, and Alive could have easily been that. If they had decided that this had worked, it could easily have been switched, and we could be seeing Even Flow in Encore 1s and Encore 2s, and seeing Alive being that mid-main set song. But for whatever reason, they decided that they didn't like it as much, or it didn't work. But
yeah, I think it's just, the lyrics of Alive, and you get the fans chanting back and forth. It's just too good to not close your night with, to not give them the signal.
And it's still
that
their most well-known song. Like, you can say Jeremy, you can say Even Flow, you can say Last Kiss because it was the single, or you can say whatever. But Alive is the song that 100% of Pearl Jam fans know and want to see.
Yeah, of course. And they almost never take a night off with either Alive or Even Flow. But I think that Even Flow is more consistently taken out of the set in that fashion. You'll see
nowadays, Alive is going to catch Even Flow in the total plays like before too long.
Who knows though? I think it's way too much of a discrepancy now to even debate it, because you're thinking about, that's a whole different conversation.
Well, you got to think there's going to be the 2020 shows. There's going to be the 2021 World Tour. They're going to come back in 2022. So we're going to get a lot of shows over the next few years, right? Right, guys?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe? Hopefully?
Yeah. Well, let's beat a virus first, and then we plan for the future. But let's Alive there. Look, it's great, and you get a little bit of a different trajectory than you get with Even Flow, which is nice every now and again, where we're going to talk about Even Flow basically being a set closer or almost a set closer. So we'll kind of get that same discussion in later in the set. So Present Tense and Habit followed up, a little bit of a no-code section here. A couple of no-code songs. I believe there were 3 in the show in total, but I can recount later if I have to.
Yeah, all right here in a row. You had Red Mosquito, then
That's,
these two.
Yep. Wasn't sure if there was a 4th one, but, Ed belting out the chorus of Present Tense feels like they're starting to be more comfortable with that song. We talked about in Berlin last week how that was one that they were still figuring out, whether it was going to be part of that encore. It didn't necessarily work out that way, but, this is one, when following your big song, this is one to build you back into the set list and sound really good. And then you have Habit to follow it back up to really get the crowd back into a frenzy. I think they work really well off of each other.
Yeah, and I liked the speaking as
Kafka, yeah.
and Habit. That was a nice touch. And then I'll give Matt Cameron another shout out. The end of Habit is fantastic. He's just banging, trying to break through his drums. It was great. But yeah, I love Present Tense and Habit back to back. I mean, the beginning of Present Tense is perfect. Ed's playing guitar with Mike, really crunching that rhythm guitar section. It sounds perfect. Then
you get into Untitled and MFC combo, which is the 5th time that the combo was ever used, and obviously popularized from the Live on 2 Legs. But this is very early on. I think everybody knows of Live on 2 Legs, and they know of how special that Untitled version is and how different it was. And they only did it one time in that 98 show. So now it's starting to become a thing where you're getting the 2 songs back to back. And it's kind of a vulnerable look into Ed's soul a little bit. He seems like he's pouring this emotion that he doesn't necessarily pour in with other songs. And it really, it's him being himself.
Some gas. Let's get the fuck out of here. Get out of here fast. Everyone's confused, so I stay in my room. If I go, I don't want to go alone.
Yeah, and it's usually a chance for him to improv something like in this one. You get, let's cross the bridges, make ourselves a new home, which is cool. He usually would tie in something to the city or to something about where they were.
Or you get a minute change.
Yeah, and I love Untitled. I think it's one of my favorite things that they do. I love, some of the versions later on, you would get, extended verses and stuff. He would really go off and make it really special. But, Untitled showing up in a set is wonderful. I love it every time.
MFC following up was a really fantastic version, too. And Ed's going...
It's screaming.
Yeah, full fuck it.
It was great.
Yeah. Car noises, too. We have to mention the car noises every single time because
I don't have to mention them. You have to mention them. But
it's a thing.
It's part of the song. It's part of
it.
It's great.
Yeah. It's because the first time we ever heard it, I thought he was gnawing on something. That is Ed's version of a car noise, which, Ed's got to Ed, so. All right, little section here of I Got Shit Wish List and Insignificance that flows pretty well, pretty balanced. And again, you're getting pretty equal play from all of the albums. And if you want to say there were only 2 Vitalogy songs that were played on this night, and I got shit into that, and there were really, there were 3 Vitalogy era songs, I would say. So, this is the pacing that you want on the wish list. You get a Mike solo that soars a little bit, and, that's really the biggest talking point of the show is how Mike is filling the room and filling the atmosphere.
Yeah, I thought Wishlist is perfect. I got shit at, get Ed doing the hey, 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 hey during the solo. I thought, I got shit solo was transcendent, and as it usually is. That's one of my favorite songs. But yeah, Insignificance I thought was a big highlight. Think of how long it had been since we'd gotten a song from the album that they're touring. Like
right.
Head of the Girl and Grievance 1 and 2, and then this is the first binaural song since then.
And the last in the main set.
Right. But I loved Insignificance. It's perfect. Ed's got the guitar back on, strumming his heart out, like trying to, again, he does that thing where he just puts his head down and tries to break through the strings on the guitar. I love it.
And then you get a massive, massive 3-headed monster to finish out the main set. Rearview Mirror, Even Flow, and Go. And these are just 3 songs that, oh boy, you don't have to come back out for an encore if you do these 3 in a row. They could be done with the set, and I think most people would enjoy it and they would appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, you could have put these in any order and it would have been great.
The crowd absolutely loves Rearview Mirror, and they are bouncing up and down. You got to love what Stone's doing in the bridge, and they enter a zone. They're absolutely locked in, and they bounce back into the chorus with that bridge, and the bass leading in is excellent. So you give Ed one last chance to belt the Rearview Mirror. A lot of Ed's best moments on this show are screaming that last final line, like that climactic moment of the song, like Animal. Present Tense had that, and this. I feel like those are the 3 that really peak out in my mind. That Ed is just really trying to reach his plateau.
Yeah, I mean, by this time he had backed off of the early years a little bit. He wasn't thrashing his voice in every song, but he still had it. Like he could still break it out when it was needed.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even Flow 2, you almost get a drum solo from Cameron. Like it was a little. What would be to come. Like you could feel like he wanted to go on a little drum solo there, but you wouldn't really get that until a few years later.
No, yeah, and they kind of almost trail into the chorus a little bit. You don't get that, when they would do that, you would get that little and they don't really do that there. They just kind of go back into the chorus, which is an interesting little transition, but Matt does get a chance to shine a little bit, even if it's not a full-fledged solo, but Even Flow belongs to Mike. else mention in between Rearview Mirror and Even Flow too that Ed mentions that they accosted some folks from Greece on the streets, and they mentioned that they've never been to Greece before, but happy that some people from the country got into the crowd and makes a point of pointing them out in the front. So they did end up going to Greece in
only
2006.
once, though. Yeah,
only once. And I did inquire because I thought to myself, I'm like, Greece and Pearl Jam fans? All right, let's see if there's a connection here. I did inquire. One of those people was not Dimmy, who was a very, everybody knows who Dimmy is, and he
was probably a little young at that point.
Yeah, I don't know his age, so I figured, Grease and Pearl Jam fans, that's the guy. But yeah, no, he was not in attendance at this show. So for anybody thinking that, Go closes this set. Always love when that happens. It's a rare appearance, it's a rare occasion, but it feels like you're ending on all that energy, and you're just asking for the crowd to beg for more when you come back for the encore.
Go is one of those chameleon songs where it can fit anywhere. It can open, it can close a set, it can be in an encore 2, anywhere they play it, it's fantastic.
See, now this is where this discussion can come in, because now what you said about Animal, where it kind of stays complacent in its spot, Go, more versatile. I think a lot more people would send us an email saying Go would be in their top 10 live songs.
Yeah.
So you use it, and look, I think Go is more impactful of a live song than Animal is. Maybe
it builds
just
up
by
to
a
something
touch.
a little bit. That McCready solo is such a cathartic thing live, especially he just goes off. Where in Animal, it's more about the rhythm of the song and the way it builds up in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against 1 and everything. It's more of a crowd participation thing than Go is. Go is a chance for McCready to just go off the deep end.
Right. Go is sheer force, sheer energy.
Yeah.
Power straight through. And then at the end, the ending is the climax of that. That's all you need to know, is that the best part of the song, the fastest part of the song, is when they end it. Animal has its bounces, it's up and down.
It keeps the same energy the whole time through.
Right, absolutely. It makes for a perfect ender. I've gotten it, I think, once or twice to end a set, and it just works. It works so well.
Oh yeah, I mean when it's over, if it closes the set, I'm sure it took these people a minute to be like, what just hit us? It's like getting hit by a truck. Yeah,
you need
a break.
Yeah,
after this to kind of recover. Yeah,
exactly. So we get into the encore, and Ed does mention that there have been some really good shows on this tour, but this show is taking it to the next level, and mentions that there are going to be bootlegs of this show, which I don't know the time period of this, but do you know when they officially announced that all shows would be bootlegs?
It was before this tour.
It was. So this was in people's minds that, hey, every single show they'll get a chance to purchase a copy of.
Right.
Okay.
But I think it was, at this point, it was CD only. Like, you had to wait until the CDs came out.
Well, downloading digitally back then wasn't as, unless you were downloading off a Napster, it wasn't a thing for them to transfer files to you or something like that.
Right.
That was less of a thing. So they mentioned that they are going to play a song that they've never played before, and Matt starts playing a conga beat.
But
They've never done that before.
You thought it was going to be Hummus, the hidden track on Yield?
No, it was a little too fast for Hummus.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was a little more uptick. But this is the live debut of Sleight of Hand, so we don't really get to talk about the song very much, but, you have to be in the mood to fully enjoy its sort of, I don't know, it has that depressing, kind of desolate feel to it, where it sort of brings the crowd down, and maybe they're still on a high after Go, so you have to kind of level them out, so you get a couple more songs that they can bounce into, like a Light Years and a Better Man later in this encore. But Sleight of Hand just takes it down just a notch and refocuses and reboots a little bit of this set.
scene was the theme. He'd wake up and wash and pour himself into uniform. Something he hadn't imagined being. As the merchant traffic passed, he found himself staring down at his own hand, not remembering the change, not recalling the plan. Was it he was okay, but wondering about wondering, was it fate by consequence, or was he moved by sleight of hand?
Yeah, but I thought they nailed it. Like it sounds a lot like the album version. A lot of with these debuts, especially this is a challenging record, like we talked about. Nowadays, they waited on Getaway because it was a little weird. They had trouble with it at the debut. We talked about that. There's some other ones throughout the years where when they first break it out, you're kind of like, iffy. But I thought this was great, Sleight of Hand, and it does kind of build to something at the end. Like it's got a little bit of punch to it, which I like. Like yeah, this song absolutely should have stuck around and been played more than it has been.
Yeah, it's been played 49 times, which is more than I would have expected. It's more than either Mankind or Who You Are on No Code, which is,
Right.
I would have never guessed that. It's not by much, but it's still, look, they'll bring it back for encore sometimes, usually in a spot like this, but it's not, you'll never see it in a first set. You'll never see it really in a spot where it's prominent.
Late first set sometimes. Yeah.
Possible, yeah, maybe during this era, but I think nowadays it is pretty much the encore spot is it for it, in that
Yeah,
slow
and
burn
again, you
area.
might get it. It's one of those things where a couple of times a year, and that's it.
Right, exactly. You're not going to get it very often. I was lucky to strike on it once, and I'll probably never see it again. I'm sure for anybody else that has gotten it in the last 5 years, probably the same thing. You're lucky if you hit these songs more than once, but it always happens that way where you get a song like All Night 5 times, but they've only played it 20. It just happens. So we get, this is, again, the last appearance of binaural songs here to open this encore, which there are only 5, which is, it is low, it is light, and I think the night before at Pink Pop 2000, they debuted Rival. So, there are a lot of, debuting Rival and debuting Sleight of Hand here. There's some songs that they, like you said, they haven't gotten a chance to get around to yet. They want to perfect the grievances and the light years of the album. And
compare that to Light Years, which this is already the 15th performance of.
Right. Grievance had, I think, 13, and I think of the girl 8 times on this tour, just this European leg. Grievance was 20 times on the European leg, which is essentially every night. So it makes sense. Those are the top songs that you want to promote from the album, but also you're not getting a Nothing As It Seems on the show either. Where
True.
That's the single.
Yeah, I think that was kind of missing. Like I almost missed it. Like it would have been nice maybe.
Well,
I think that was it.
How
Just
good
fell
Mike
victim
was
to the Alive even flow switch. Maybe screwed it up a little bit, but
sure.
Yeah, I thought Nothing As It Seems would have been nicer. I kind of missed it.
Yeah, that would have. I feel like you could have either used present tense or Nothing As It Seems, and they
Sure.
went with present tense, and maybe it was the no code back to back that they liked and appreciated. But with how good Mike was at the show, it should have had that song.
Yeah, and it was back before and nowadays I think he lost the guitar. That guitar broke, the pedal broke that he did the solo on, like on the album, so it doesn't sound the same now. But like these 2000 versions, he still had that pedal. So yeah, you still get that original Nothing As It Seems sound. Is really nice.
So the last binaural song, like I mentioned before, is Light Years, and great version. You get it bouncy, you get it sing-songy, and it's as close to the album version as I've heard from the song. I know we've kind of mentioned in the show that a lot of these performances are very close to the album version. I really felt that with Light Years on this.
Oh, it's great. It's one of my favorite songs again. Like, I have a tattoo of one of the lyrics on my arm, so I'm not going to say anything bad about Light Years. But it's one of those things. Like, I'm glad this one has stuck around a little more. You know, it gets played a little more nowadays. It's kind of become one of the ones that you're most likely to get off binaural. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, you know, we'll have to do a we might not get to an Evolution episode for a while, but you know, the Puzzles and Games demo where they thought it was too close to Given to Fly, so they basically reversed it. So Light Years is basically based off a reverse Given to Fly. So it's kind of interesting. Those kind of a tie-in together. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. Never thought of it that way, but I can.
Yeah, they thought Puzzles and Games was too similar to Given to Fly, so they reversed it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Better Man follows it up, and that's a very strong version of Better Man. And when you get a Save It for Later tag, but it's not. I feel like in the early versions of the Save It for Later tag, they're not doing it like they are now, where you have a complete breakdown, the song changes, they do the call and response, and then they get into the Don't Run Away. This is a real tag at the end of the song instead of going off on a jam.
Some that are like 7, 8, 9 minute versions where they really go off on it. But yeah, I mean, this is, I thought, where they kind of loosened up a little bit. Like you mentioned, like a lot of straight versions, which is not usually what you expect from a Pearl Jam show. You expect them to kind of mess around a little bit, but I think for whatever reason, starting with Better Man till the end here is they kind of lightened up a little bit and we're playing around a little more.
After Better Man, Ed mentions that you might have never heard this song before, but he was having a hard few days, and Matt had a record by the band called The Laws, and it's a hard-to-find song, so they're going to play it for you. And I think that at around this time, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ed's going through the divorce at around this time. So he's, during this tour, at least the European leg, I think he was going through some hard days, because I remember one of the shows that we did, in the past where they performed present tense, and he said, I've been really feeling this song. I've been really taking the words to heart lately. It felt like he was going through a difficult point in his career and his life.
Yeah, it could have been. But Timeless Melody is the Laws. People might know them. They did that There She Goes, if you know how that song goes.
Yeah.
There was a cover done by someone a couple of years ago that got pretty popular. But yeah, they were an English band in the mid to late 80s. This song was, I think I looked it up, it was supposed to have been a single, but the single never came out or something. But yeah, it's a nice poppy song. Like it almost could have been something that was, it fits like as a tag on a Better Man or a Daughter or something. Like it could easily have been one of those songs. But yeah, then this is the only cover you get on the show.
like they've used this. Was this in Touring Band, or was this used as like an ending credits for one of their DVDs? Because I feel like there's something prominent that was with this song and a performance of it. I can't remember which one. But
I don't think it's in Touring Band, but would you say it was a timeless melody?
Well, considering it's 20 years later and we're still talking about it.
Yeah. Have we covered this one before? We covered a show where they played it, right? It's only had been played a handful of times.
Yeah, only 10 times. I think this is the only time that we've talked about it so far, because I can't remember a time that I've talked about it. I didn't even know if I knew the song, and then when I listened to it, it reminded me that, hey, this sounds like something that they've used in an extracurricular thing before, like a DVD or something of the likes, or this version was used.
Yeah, this was only the fourth time out of 10.
Yeah.
And 9 of those were in 2000, so
they only brought it back one
Yeah.
time in 2004. Yeah, this right. I thought this was a really catchy song. It's got a really good melody to it, so to speak, for lack of better terms, and the riff is nice, and it's interesting because you can always go back to a cover song and you could say, okay, this cover song was for this era. This one is the Binaural era cover song. Leaving Here is the No Code era cover song. Give Me Some Truth, Riot Act era.
That they would go back and find a deep cut like this. Like, it would have easy for them to go with There She Goes, right?
Of course,
that was the hit.
Right.
But like they did with Driven to Tears, like they did with Arms Aloft, like they did with Give Me Some Truth, like they dig for that deep cut that might be like an actual better song to play, and it just shows you how big of music fans they are, that like they know their music history, like they'll go and dig for a song to cover, like the story of Finding Last Kiss at the flea market or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just one of those. One in a long history of covers that they do that it probably turned a lot of people onto the song.
Yeah, but there's no lack of major rock song covers either, and you have.
But even too, like, I think Rockin' in the Free World has become theirs, but that's not like, you don't think of Neil Young, you don't think of Rockin' in the Free World.
No, because it's late Neil Young, but even Bob
because
O'Reilly,
of
Pearl Jam,
they could have easily taken on My Generation or one of the early things, but like even Bobo O'Reilly, like you could even count those in that. Like, yeah, those are classic rock songs, but they're not like the number one song by that band.
Oh, I think Bobo is the number one song by the
I disagree.
Really? I think it's top 3 at least.
I think people know My Generation more. They know Won't Get Fooled Again. They know
Can't Explain.
Who Are You? Things like that. Like, yeah, I think it's.
I don't know. I think Bobo is such a
number one.
It has such a rich sound to it and such a build.
People don't even know the title. Most people know it as Teenage Wasteland.
As Teenage Wasteland, of course. But like everybody's heard it in arenas, and when a hockey team takes the ice or a baseball team takes the field.
Thanks to Pearl Jam.
I think the Who. I think that stands alone. I think the Who made it popular. I don't think Pearl Jam popularized Bobo O'Reilly.
It may not be a deep cut, but I don't think it's the number one song that they went to.
I can see an argument for Rockin' in the Free World though, because of the VMA performance, and people do attribute Pearl Jam. When you think of Rockin' in the Free World, you think of Pearl Jam just as much as you think of Neil Young.
Right.
But right. I don't think that's the same for Bobo O'Reilly. But they've done countless Who songs that aren't really the best Who song or the most.
Think about doing like
song.
"Rain" by the Beatles. Like, that's not a top Beatles song. Like, yeah, there's lots of examples.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully agree with that, and I like how they bring that to the table and they bring something new, because it kind of it helps me dive in to stuff that I wouldn't necessarily listen to, like. The band that they performed with, Neil Finn, his band.
Crowded House.
Yeah, for Crowded House, doing a couple of those songs. Like, you don't expect them to do stuff. Yeah, this split end stuff.
Yeah.
You don't expect them to do that. So, it kind of turns you on to different generations and different music. And, I think that maybe just as much as them enjoying the music, they want people to branch out and start listening to other stuff that is influencing them. So
Definitely.
we get into a little section here. It's not a very long encore. It's what, 10 songs long, maybe
9.
Yeah, so like you're not getting an encore 2, so it doesn't feel as long. It's just one strip and that's it. But you also, this is your last little section that kind of rocks out, and then you end on kind of more of a somber note. So Evolution, State, and Once are your kind of last moment to really feel the energy and feel the show. Stone has a really good solo in Evolution. I thought that was awesome. I thought this version of Evolution was really good. And you got Mike doing those same delay sounds that he's doing all night, but, they're tapping in to their last ounces of energy. And even Once, Eddie is on the stage amps and he's climbing up and he's doing the call and response with the crowd. And these are just really good versions of 3, pretty popular songs.
Yeah, I mean, you could call this, the throwback section where this is the part where, like, hey, remember those songs that you liked?
Right.
This is how they're going to shut it down. Yeah, State of Love and Trust is great. I thought they were loosening up a little bit, having a little more fun on stage, it looked like.
Oh, yeah. Jeff and Stone are rocking out a little bit on stage, yeah.
And Once is the highlight. The crowd goes crazy. Everyone, putting their fingers up and clapping along, and Ed playing it up, being the front man, playing his role on the speakers and doing the crowd interaction. That would have been a highlight, definitely, for the people that were there.
Yeah, Matt had a really good part in this too, where he just sounded on Once. He just sounded like a machine. It really worked well.
Yeah, great versions.
So Ed says we're going to do one more, and then says, all right, we're going to do 3 more for the girl in the front. But really, they split the difference, and they are only doing 2 more. But I like this, how they end this set list, because you're not, again, you got a live that you crossed off. You can easily do a Rockin' in the Free World here, but as we talked about last week, there are all these different ways to finish out a show. You get the more emotional response to finish a show with Black into Ledbetter. So what do you think about this tying in as the ending spot instead of using the more traditional songs here?
Well, I thought it was a chance, again, like, this is a Mike show. We said at the very beginning, like, it's a chance for McCready to take over. I thought even Black had a little harder edge than it normally did. So maybe they were playing it up a little bit, kind of, again.
It's because Mike had a cigarette in his mouth.
Around. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I always like Black wherever it shows up. Like, it's one of their best songs. It's in the top 3 for me. McCready has a fantastic solo at the end. Again, you mentioned the cigarette. They're having fun, like, and then Ledbetter, like, no better way to finish this off than to let McCready go off and do his thing.
Yeah, no, McCready was a machine on Ledbetter for sure. Again, the NBA Jam reference, that's in full force. He's finishing the night off, and
or
he's
the
basically
Rock Band reference. He flipped his guitar up and turned on the turbo mode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Check out our Rock Band episode that we did on Patreon. A little plug there for that. But yeah, no, he was Burning Man all night. He was just fantastic. So, all right, best Mike moments of this show. See what I did there? No.
Yeah, I did. Animal, Of the Girl, and Black.
I think Of the Girl was definitely a big moment for him. Red Mosquito, of course, is always going to be a good moment for him.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Black is this was a really good version of Black. That shouldn't have just been passed by to talk about the setlist placement. He was looking up to the high heavens on this, and that cigarette in his mouth, it looked like he was in a trance, like he was in another stratosphere that he took himself to. Yeah. So yeah, no, this version of Black is definitely far superior to most. So, those are the highlights for me. I think like Pilot was kind of cool to see. This was good. MFC and Untitled, but yeah, very solid show. Very pretty much. I don't want to say by the numbers, but they pretty much hit everything that they needed to hit on this show, and it sounded really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this was one of them. I don't think I have this CD. I think I have another one from this European leg that I went and bought. But yeah, I mean, when these CDs came out, you would go and like look at the back, look at the set list, and see like, oh, you know, which ones do I want to hear? Which ones have the rare songs? And like this isn't a show full of like super rare songs. You get Pilot, but again, it was more recent at the time. You get the debut of Sleight of Hand, but yeah, it's not one of those that's going to get elevated into the classic realm. But yeah, it's perfectly solid. I give it a 6.5.
6.5. Okay. I think it makes the 7 mark, so I think it gives a 7. We've had some discrepancy over our ratings as of late and why certain shows are the same as others when other shows were way better.
Yeah, and I can see where it would. We kind of backed ourselves in a corner where, you know, we're not going to give, most things don't get lower than a 6 or a 7. Like, why even rate them if you're going to give everyone between a 7 and a 9? But, you know, it's more just to separate the classic ones from the average. And again, every show's great. I'm sure that if you had talked to people after the show, they'd have been like, that's the best show I've ever seen. Like that was a 10 out of 10, you know?
Of course, yeah.
Which we mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure, you know, there have been a couple that we'll get to that maybe will get a lower ranking, but yeah, I mean, it's so hard if you love this band and you love the songs, it's so hard to listen to one of these where the songs are great, the performances are great. It's so hard to listen to this and go 4.
Right. You don't get a lot of disappointment.
I think we err on the side of being a little more friendly, where, you know, we focus on the positive things. And yeah, like, you know, there may be missed notes and things like that, but that doesn't bother me. It's about the performance, it's about the moments, and there are those in every show. So yeah, you know, if you're mad that we give every show a 7 or an 8, then sorry, you know, but some shows I gave Berlin a 10, you know, I that's the way I look at it. It's just a way for me to separate the ones that elevate to that classic status.
Yeah, I think it's tough because sometimes when I listen to bootlegs, I take my rating as, you know, how I took in that boot and what kind of mood it put me in for the day. And, you know, it has that kind of effect on you as well, instead of just like, hey, how was the show? So, you know,
someday we'll cover that singles party where they got super trashed and messed everything up. But we'll give that one a 1 just to balance out the curve.
No, look, we don't, unless we change it to, you know, being out of 5, which is just makes it way harder to decipher between the top stuff. You know, I don't mind. I think what we got going on is good. So we do a Pearl Jam podcast and we rate everything a 7 or more. Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. What are we, not fans? What do we not like this band? It's, you know, it's fine.
If you go back, I did give Nagoya a 5 just because it was weird. And I don't think there's much in it for people to listen to. But so that if you want a little different point of view, then go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah. But look, there's always good moments, and even something from that show you picked on your wish list.
Absolutely.
So you gave something a 5 that you still put on your Sirius XM wish list.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Yeah, thanks to everybody who listened to. We put it up on our Patreon, and thanks to people who enjoyed it. I appreciate it. You're gonna have to do one now. You're gonna have to email them, and
I want to. Yeah, it's really hard to come up with just 5 and come up with not just 5, but the perfect 5 and what makes sense to me. And I don't just want it to be, you know, from Madison Square Garden and Hartford shows, because that really doesn't make any sense. And I want to add in stuff that we've covered on the show. And boy, between like 80 shows that we've done, you know, way more than that. We're, you know, with all of the extra stuff that we've done for Patreon and you know, added in.
Let me look at the big board.
Okay, we get the big board busted out. This is a big board, by the way, you guys.
90, looks like 93 or 94 shows.
Yeah, you got to add in, really, 90? Because this is only episode 79.
We got all the bridge schools and all that stuff, and we did the Helsinki episode and all that stuff. There've been a few extra ones in there.
All right. Well, if it's around that, then
I'd say
then okay.
we've done about an extra 10 or 10 to 15.
Okay. Look, there's if you guys want to help me curate this wish list with songs that we've covered before that we've had really good conversations about, then by all means, write into us at Live on Four Legs Podcast, the number 4 at gmail.com and help us out, because I for sure can't think of my absolute favorite stuff because it's all
yeah, I just kind of went off the cuff. I tried not to overanalyze it. I just picked the first things that came to me.
Right. Yeah. It's so tough. It's so difficult.
So we teased something at the beginning of this episode. I want to make sure we don't forget. Is it time to
let's do the reveal.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. We've been doing a lot of these around the world shows, and I know, there are places that not a lot of our U.S. fans have been to these shows before, and we're going to give a lot back with the month of July. So every single show in the month of July will be Wrigley related, and we will do 2013, 2016, and 2018. There'll be 5 Wednesdays in July, and we're going to do one each week. So what we would like from you is we're going to kind of, change it up and do a little bit of crowd participation on this, and maybe if we get enough emails, we'll do extra episodes instead of adding them in our regular episodes, because there's going to be a lot of content going into just talking about the show themselves.
Yeah,
so
there may have to be a part 1 and a part 2. We might have to split it up. But
yeah.
We're working on getting a really cool guest, which I don't want to say anything yet, but it's gonna be great to go to those shows. Like you were at 2013.
Yep.
I was at the 2 in 2016. So we tie in with a little personal thing there. I've got some good stories from those shows. So, and then I know the 2018 shows were great as part of the home shows. So
yeah,
those are going to be big. People have been asking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our patrons as well want to contribute to the 2018 and 2016 shows. So we'll have a lot of voices in, but we definitely want to hear from you and just hear your stories, because I feel like with Wrigley, it's not just going to a show. It's sort of an experience. So, email us, let us know what the whole trip was like and your whole experience being there. And, it could be either waiting in the rain for the 2013 or the second 2018 show, or it could be how hot some of the shows were, because I know that some of those shows were hot, or how difficult it was to collect all the posters, because a lot of people were trying that out. So there are a lot of different stories that we want to tackle here, and we definitely could use your help. So, we'll keep mentioning this every week. If you have a good Wrigley story that you'd like to tell, shoot us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com, and we will definitely get them in July when we do the Wrigley series. So we're very excited about that, and we're excited to hear from you guys and see what you got to say.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Should be fun. But next week, we are staying on the East Coast. We're back to the East Coast. John, you had a no East Coast.
I tried.
Yeah, and you failed, because we have some patrons that we would like to make happy, and one of them being Jason Corbin, who requested the Mansfield 2008 show. It's night 2, 2008, and we have a really nice story that came from him, why he chose this show. So we'll tell a story next week, and we'll do that. We have a couple of 2008 ones that are on our schedule and that have been that we covered this year. So it's not a year that people really kind of gravitate towards, but it's definitely it's a sleeper year. It's a sleeper year. They do some, they bring back some stuff that they haven't done in a long time, some Lost Dogs in there. So yeah, I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's the Mansfield shows are legendary because of that 2003
of
set,
course.
And yeah, I think they were kind of they like to make those shows special.
That's what we got going on, and of course we will have a Patreon episode featuring the Vienna 1992 show, and that'll be up at some point this week. But of course, if you are listening late, I know a lot of people are archival listeners, which is totally fine by us. it takes a long time to listen to all these podcasts while you're social distancing and quarantining and stuff like that. So when we say this week, it's probably up already. So just head on over to patreon.com/liveonfourlegs and check out just all of the exclusive episodes we have over there. And again, it's bootleg a month. We get a free bootleg for everybody that joins up. So that should be a very exciting and enticing little giveaway that we'll start doing soon. So, all right, let's close it on out. This may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. For Randy and John covering Prague 2000, we will be back next week.
Stay safe, everybody. Thanks.
I know someday you'll have a beautiful life.